So close to 2 billion, but not quite. 1.195. So we'll go through our teams here. So we have our Dauntless team. They're doing 205. We got Nastjenka, Tharivol, Schaltar, Nathaniel, Nimbus. We got Wildfire doing 204. Synarrel, Flora, Errich, Tonalnan, and Thea. We got Corrosion doing 233. Frurbath, Dargo, Sacradeia, Rook, Whisk. And we got Poison doing 200. We got Lothair, Corrin, Oggok, Eli, and Lorarii. We have our Burn Aura hybrid team doing 180. Aschetius, Beags, Garius, Diantha, and Aemonleyda. And then our last team, Rally, doing 173. We got Huberg, Lorentheel, Hegio, Felicity, and Ardrith. There we go. Those are our teams. Just shy of 1.2 billion. Start with... Let's start with Dauntless. Alright, so here's our Dauntless team. Now there's a couple things about this boss that are important. So first of all, positioning. The boss's skill here releases Seed of Rust Poison to all enemies by centering them. What that gibberish means is that when he casts that skill, each hero is hit with a AoE and they explode damage around them. And so everyone around them, every hit is basically a stack of the Rust Poison. So in this situation with this lineup, each hero gets one stack no matter what. And then Nathaniel will give Schaltar one stack, he'll give Nimbus one stack, he'll give Tharivol one stack, and Nastjenka one stack. And then these four are all going to give Nathaniel one stack each. So Nathaniel gets 5 stacks, everyone else gets 2 stacks. Now that's important because the Rust Poison is the only thing in the fight that scales as time goes on. So this is what will kill you, is the Rust Poison. So you want as few of these Rust Poison stacks as you can possibly get throughout the fight. Because I'm using Nathaniel, I need everyone near him, otherwise he can't heal them. So if I was using a different team that didn't need someone like Nathaniel, you literally just spread out so no one's touching, right? And then now everyone only gets 1 stack of Seed Poison or Rust Poison, and that's the best you can do. But here we have to do this way. Now if you stacked like this or something, now everyone's just getting hit with all sorts of stacks, and you'll die a lot faster. So you just want to make sure you spread out the best you can depending on the team you're using. The second bit is you have this skill here, the third skill at 18 seconds. It dispels 2 buffs, and if they have no buffs left, they gain buff provision for 10 seconds. Now, on some teams, this makes no difference. You can just ignore it. On others, this is an obnoxious mechanic that you have to kind of work around. So you just got to keep that in mind. The last bit that is important is when the boss does his ultimate, he gains Fragile for 5 seconds where he takes 200% more damage. This is when you burst all of your damage. This gets added instantly at exactly 30 seconds and goes away at 35 seconds. So you have a 5-second window. However, there's kind of one caveat. So this alt skill, if your heroes do not have a buff, each hit, so 4 hits, each hit reduces their alt energy by 30%, which is massive. So if you wait too long to alt, then everyone gets their alt energy stolen, and then all of a sudden now they can't alt. But there's a very, very, very tiny window. So if you look at my timings here, well, this is probably a bad team for it because they're Dauntless. Let me show a different team that adheres to the timings. The Corrosion team. So if you look here, we have Whisk going at 30.3, Sacradeia at 30.4, and then Rook at 30.5. So this is in that tiny little window. You have a half-second tiny window to do your damage where you can ignore the alt reduction because the alt reduction doesn't kick in until 30.5. So as long as you do your damage before that, you're fine. You're not going to lose your alt. And then generally you put everyone on 30-second intervals, so they lose their alt energy. It's not a big deal. You have 30 seconds to get it back. They'll get it back. So that's kind of the one little trick. Each team's a little different though. You can't just use like the same global timings. Even different heroes completely change how you do it. So for Dauntless, for example, everyone goes before 30 seconds because Dauntless you wind up, right? So you get all the stuff going, and then 30 seconds hits. The boss gets fragile. They're all pumping, right? So that full 5 seconds, all your guys are just pumping. Whereas if you wait until after 30 seconds to start doing all these things, you're going to waste a couple seconds of damage time. The last tidbit here is every time the boss gets hit with a skill, he gains 5% damage reduction. But every time he casts a skill, he wipes it all away. So that's why sometimes you'll use someone to cast a skill like right at 29.8 seconds so that their damage reduction stack gets wiped away, and then your real DPS go, and they have no damage reduction stacks at that point. So that's kind of all the nuances with the fight that you kind of want to keep in mind when you're team building. So for this team, we have Abelius going first, and this is because he has a really long animation for this alt. It's like 1.5 seconds. So when he casts this alt, he doesn't even start firing until like a second and a half later. So that's why we have him before everyone else. Then Schaltar goes because he just puts up his aura, the Blessing of Thunder, for 15 seconds. And then immediately after, Nimbus goes because we have Nimbus and Witch's Remains. So we want like a full second of time where Nimbus can try to land that defense penalty. But we don't want to do it too soon because then we're wasting some of Nimbus's damage, right? Because this is before the boss goes fragile. So you have to find that sweet spot where you're basically guaranteed to get defense penalty, but you don't want to wait too long where you miss defense penalty, but you don't want to do too early where you miss damage potential. So Nimbus goes at 29. Nastjenka goes immediately after to start racking up damage. And then they all just blast away for the next 10, 15 seconds, 5 seconds of which the boss is fragile, and we do a lot of damage. And then the important part here is Nathaniel. So we have him with 157 skill haste. You need basically 157, 158, assuming you also have the 15 from here. So that lets you go twice every 15 seconds. And that's the only way you can keep these guys alive. If Nathaniel's going every 30 seconds, people are going to die. The second part of it is you have to do his ult late enough that the buff prohibition wears off so that he can put his buff up, which prevents him from losing his ult energy. Because if he loses his ult energy, you can't go every 15 seconds. So there's all these like intricate things where you have to do everything super specific. Now, as you start doing the fight and you do your own times, your own teams, you'll start to kind of understand what all is going on. But that is why everything is like calibrated exact. Why don't I put Nastjenka at 30? Because everyone else is already going. So I just would be wasting a full second of time. There would be no advantage of waiting for Nastjenka to go. Also, if she went at 30, she would apply a damage reduction stack. because her ult would hit after the boss wiped away the damage reduction. All your damage is coming from basic attacks, from her ults, from this 10-second period, from Schaltar's 15-second period. Those don't count for damage reduction. So you'll see it in action. And then for gear, we got Nastjenka. I have her in the Captain's Hook. Comes with the crit rate, which is nice, and then you do additional damage if they aren't full HP. Now, the sets vary from hero to hero. I've done a lot of testing. Some heroes do better with Emperor's Might. Some do better with Emperor or with Aerial Battle Roar. It just depends on a lot of factors. It's something you're just going to have to mess with. Generally, if you want to run Emperor's Might, you need like 6,000, 7,000 attack. Otherwise, it's just not enough attack to get that bonus going. However, if someone has really high crit damage, Aerial Battle Roar is better because you're getting attack for the crit damage. Sometimes you need the extra 10% crit rate, right? So there's just all these little things that sometimes I put Aerial on someone and other times I do Emperor's Might. Yeah, it's just something you got to play with and figure out. You're pretty much going to put these defense penalty gloves on all your damage no matter what. So that's just kind of guaranteed. And then we got Schaltar. I have him in the Robotrix roots. It makes it easier for him to live. I was having issues with him dying early. Because he has the Robotrix roots, I do have him in Emperor's Might. I could see him wearing basically any of the 3 sets, and it'd probably work. The Enlightenment set could work pretty well. I don't know if I specifically tested for him. So that might be a way to get a little more damage, use the Enlightenment set. I know that my Lothair does more damage with the Enlightenment set. So Schaltar might as well. Tharivol, I have him with the cup. You want lots of crit rate on Tharivol. That's how you get extra attacks, which amplifies Shagroll and Nastjenka's damage. So we have the cup for attack speed, extra crit rate. We have him already at basically 100% crit rate with the cup. And then, like I said, Nimbus, he's our Witch's Remains wearer. We gave him lots of attack speed because he does more attacks. The more attack speed he has on his ult. That's kind of where we're at. So we'll give this a spin. So right here in the middle, Nathaniel's going to go. We're going to get our shields. We're going to get our heal going. The boss is going to strip the heal, so we don't get much, but we do keep the shields. Tharivol goes. He's just getting ready to go. Then we get Schaltar's Aura. We get defense penalty coming up. Now we're set. We have defense penalty, and now we're just blast away. We try to, we can't help battle skills. Battle skills are going to give you damage reduction stacks. Can't do anything about that. But we're not doing any ults that do damage other than Nathaniel's, which we have to, but just try to limit the damage reduction there. And you see Nathaniel, he goes right before the boss's ult hits, but long enough to let the buff prohibition wear off if he has it. Sometimes he'll have it. See, we're already over 50 million. You have to do basically 50 million every 2 minutes to do 200 million, so we're well on pace. This is the base of the fight. Just let it run for 8 minutes and about it. Now, obviously, if you don't have Nastjenka, you know, you can plug and play other heroes, right? Like, you may not do 200 million damage, but, you know, you're always... There's other options. The only, like, important pillar hero here is Nathaniel. Everyone else can be interchanged, you know. If you don't have Nastjenka, but you have Avelios, you bring in Avelios. If you don't have Tharivol, you know, you can bring in Sutha or Garrett, you know, whatever. The same strat, the same approach, same strategies, the same. I mean, you could even do this without any legendaries. You'll do less damage, but, you know, the comp will still work. The only one that's vital is Nathaniel. We're about to hit 200 million. At this point, the boss is going to take 90% less damage from everyone. So the amount of damage you can do at this point is very limited. The important number is just trying to get to 200 million. Now the last thing is if you leave everyone on auto, you waste your very last ult because the fight ends right here at the very end. So for the last rotation, I'll take everyone off auto, and then I'll cast them. For Dauntless, I'll do it about, you know, 10 seconds early, 10, 15 seconds early to make sure they kind of get all their hits in time. Just to get one tiny little bit last burst of damage. And there we go. Basically 205 million, not too bad. 5 the full 8 minutes. Nastjenka 88 million, Schaltar with a impressive 70 million, Tharivol 32, and then Nimbus with 12. All right, so here's our wildfire. Oh, wrong one. Here's our wildfire team. We ended up using Felicity somewhere else. Oh, we had to bring in Thea. So it is a Flora team. So obviously, the team is centered around feeding Flora. If you don't have Flora, you have to just build raw damage, right? So it's not going to be a 200 million team probably if you don't have Flora, but you can still do 80, 100, 120 million depending on your gear and artifacts and whatnot. We do have Synarrel solo support for the whole team. I try to do that with all these teams. Just have one support if I can make it work. Synarrel is good enough because he's always doing attack penalty that I actually don't even have him with like the Gatekeeper staff. I was able to give him the pipe organ with 7,100 attack. And then we also have the skill haste gloves for a little bit extra attack. And then you got Flora, Queen's Fan. So actually we should have her back here for max distance, right? That's how the Queen's Fan works. Positioning doesn't matter here. No one needs to be standing each other. You want to spread out. So we have her. I tested different sets. I get the best results with Emperor's Might. Again, it just depends on your gear, your hero, what aura are you using, all that different stuff. So for me, Emperor's Might just does better for her. We have her with 6,500 attack, 387 enlightenment. Crit doesn't really matter. And then we got Tonalnan. She'll do our next best damage. We have her with Robotrix Roots. Again, Emperor's Might. She gets a lot of attack. So she's already at 5,000. She's wearing Robotrix Roots. She's an epic, so she's getting an extra 30%. And then on top of that, her ultimate gives herself attack up. And that's an important thing. So remember how this boss is buff prohibition. Buff prohibition wears off at 30.2, sometimes 30.3 seconds. So that's why I have Tonalnan going at 30.4. So the buff prohibition will wear off, and then she'll actually be able to land this attack up on herself. So like those tiny little things can make a big difference over 8 minutes. And then we got Errich, just built for max damage that I could. I wish I had his artifacts, but I don't have the legendary artifact for him. So he's got 77 plus 15% crit rate, so he's at 92 crit rate, not bad. 223 damage, it's okay. I wish it was a little higher. 5,700 attack is pretty solid. And then because I already have 2 people in Emperor's Might, I don't have enough for 3 sets. So we have in the aerial battle roar. And then Thea, she does a triple hit with her alt, and she is Wildfire. So we have her in place of Felicity to do our Witch's Remains. Her stats don't really matter. She doesn't do that much damage. She does a little bit. It helps. So we do have her built for DPS, but it's not super crucial important. Just make sure she has enough accuracy. That's the most important thing, so she can land it. And then Synarrel, as I said, I just built him for max attack, 7,100 attack. He's got the pipe organ, so he's sharing this with Errich and Flora. We have the healing chest for 50% chance for 50% increased healing. We have the skill haste gloves for extra attack coming from that. And then we're using the attack aura from Flora. And then for timings, Synarrel, I just have him on default. It works. So I just don't mess with it. I want Flora to go before 30 seconds because her ult does do damage, but that's not what we care about. So I don't want that damage reduction stack on there. So she does her ult right before the boss does the damage reduction cleanse, so that gets wiped off. And then we have Thea going at 30.3. Now the reason for this is Thea also gives herself attack up. So this gives her a decent chance of that buff prohibition falling off so that she can land the attack up on herself. Just does a little bit more damage. And then Tonalnan immediately after, same thing. You want to try to get this on Tonalnan. And then finally Errich goes. Tonalnan does more damage than Errich, so that's why I want Tonalnan going first. Just to make sure Tonalnan goes with less damage reduction stacks. That's pretty much it. Fight is very basic with this team. Flora makes it easy. Synarrel makes it easy. You see Flora will go. So yeah, we have like 7 damage stacks. That gets wiped away. Now we get defense penalty. Tonalnan goes. Well, Thea missed with defense penalty. Yeah, there's the... I mean, I guess what I could try. So Thea saw their defense penalty got added afterwards. Because everyone's like going so close together, right? 1/10 of a second apart. So I could try Thea at 30.2. She probably will not get this attack up buff, but she's not doing that much damage, so it's probably more important to make sure we get defense penalty always. Because that'll add up to a lot more damage than Thea hitting a little bit harder. We'll see if that extra 1/10 of a second makes sure that Thea finishes her ult before Tonalnan goes. Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, so now we're getting 400,000 per Flora derivative damage hit instead of 200. I should put Sunny away until we're done with all these. Covers up a quarter of the screen. Not even halfway. We're already over 100 million, so we'll easily hit the 200 million mark. Alright, so we're nearing the end of the fight here. This will be the last ult, and then I'll take it off auto. Do that, the last one before time runs out. Alright, 204. Flora is doing 106 on her own. Tonalnan put up 45. Errich 34, and then Thea 12, and Synarrel 5. The gimmicky Corrosion Rook team, everyone's favorite. So for this one, we got Frurbath doing the solo support, trying to spread out as much as I can. So we have Sacradeia over here. We got Whisk over here. Rook is kind of tanky, so I have him in the middle. So he's gonna get 2 stacks, or he's gonna get 3 stacks per, but he's got 1800 defense almost, so he can take it. Whereas Dargo's got a little bit less, so that's why you have him back here to only get 2 stacks. But he does have, yeah, right. And then for gear, so we have Frurbath, Solar King's Horn. This gives us more damage. We can survive with it. Healing chest, protection set, mitigate some damage. We have Dargo wearing Witch's Remains. Now, I would prefer Whisk have it, but it's really, really, really hard to get the timing right. With Dargo doing damage and Whisk doing Witch's Remains, because you have to deal with the travel time of this ult. And you only have a half-second window to like land everything, and the orbs like don't even land within that half-second window. They're too slow. So I just find it easier just to put Dargo with Witch's Remains. I get better results. We have him Aerial Battle Roar. He doesn't have much attack, so that's better than Emperor's Might. Rook, we have him with the Captain's Hook. We do have him in Emperor's Might. I flip back and forth. It's like, I don't know. I can't discern the difference between the two sets with my Rook. I seem to kind of get exact same results, whether I use Aerial Battle Roar or Emperor's Might. So this just kind of gives me a little bit better stats, so I go with this. We have Sacradeia. She's just with the pipe organ. Lots of attack gloves. It's really important to build her for attack. Attack and then try to get crit rate, but attack is the most important. So we have 6,400 attack, 71 crit rate, and then a little bit of damage. And then Whisk. So we have him in the Aerial Battle Roar. I can't really get his attack high. Even with Robotrix Roots, he does better with the Battle Roar set. And yeah, I've tried different artifacts. The Robotrix Roots, even on a legendary, it was doing better. So that's what we are rolling with. She's in the 30% attack aura, and then for timings, so I have Frurbath going at 23. This will let us have attack penalty for this skill, which is kind of the hard-hitting skill, and then the ultimate. Another advantage is he does it here right before the boss wipes the damage reduction stack, so you have like a limited amount of time that damage reduction stack is on, just little min-max. And then we have Dargo. He shoots his balls at 26.8. This was the exact time that I felt with where I have him positioned, where the orbs hit right as the boss is going fragile, but soon enough to make sure we get defense penalty before Whisk goes. So it's just like tenths of a second matter on this fight. It's kind of crazy. Like, you get millions and millions of damage difference by changing times by tenths of a second. So for me, 26.8 was the best number. And then we have Whisk going at 30.3. Now, the reason for that is I want him to get invisibility. He does more damage when he's invisible. So we need that buff prohibition to fall off. So he does his ult, he gains invisibility, he gains attack up, he does way more damage. So 30.3. Sacradeia immediately after. That's because she's boosting Corrosion, so we want max Corrosion before she goes and boosts it. And then Rook, at the end, doing all the damage. This team absolutely crushes. We do 200 million in less than 3 minutes. Thank you, Rook. Now, if you don't have Rook, you could use Sabrina. Sabrina is like the only Rook replacement. She's the only other hero that basically does anything with Corrosion damage, so you could still run a comp like this without Rook. Are you going to do 200 million? Probably not. But you might be able to do like 80 to 100 million, which, might be one of your 6 best teams. So Sabrina is a pretty solid damage dealer if you can get some good Corrosion damage going. Just endless numbers. Yeah, we're getting 297 hits on Rook's ult, so we're getting a lot of Corrosion damage packed on here. And there we are, already over 200 million, 2.5 minutes. And now we just sit here, do our 90% less damage for another 5 minutes, and call it a day. Alright, so last 30 seconds, we want to make sure we get our ults in, take them off auto. Have to do it manual. Alright, and there we go. 32. Obviously, Rook just... Let's look at this gear again. Does anything want to change?
Even in darkness's grip, I refuse to simply yield.
I only ran this team once, and they did like 199. I was like, okay.
If you're smart, don't compare me to any ordinary sinner.
Yeah, I don't think there's really much to do. Alright, so this is our fourth team. This is our Lothair team. The important thing with this team, this only works if you have Corrin, you book him, you have the Hourglass, and you give him a ton of skill haste. Basically, he needs to ult every like 14.5 seconds, something like that. And basically what this does is he infinitely refreshes poison so that you hit 40 poison stacks permanently for the whole fight. This lets Lothair do an ungodly amount of damage every time he casts his ultimate. So we have a full poison team. I tried this with a couple of different things, but what worked best was getting the 40 poison stacks really quickly. So we brought in Lorarii. He actually does okay damage. He ignores, once we hit 40 poison stack, he ignores all defense with his passive. His ult hits for 600, so he does okay. We gave him the slingshot so that we could get accuracy, so where he could land some decent poisons, and then gave him as much damage and attack as I could muster. So we have Lothair. I did more damage with the derivative set. So we're wearing that. I have the Harpy Nail, which is increasing his passive damage. Still the ignore or the defense penalty gloves, but attack percent based. I don't really care about his crit, right? We want high enlightenment, so he's wearing an enlightenment chest, and we want high attack, so he's got like 6,000 attack. And as I said, Corrin's Hourglass, double skill haste sets, a lot of skill haste on the runes. So he's at 78 on the stat sheet, plus 100, plus 15 from our buffs. We have Eli doing Witch's Remains because he's a triple hit, right? We have enough accuracy, so he's going to be applying some poisons. And then just basic kind of damage gear from there. Oggok is our solo support. We have him in the Solar King's Horn that just helps boost our damage a little bit more. Healing chest. Good enlightenment. Yeah, and we're using the enlightenment aura for timings. Oggok only needs to go once every 30 seconds. So we have him go at 30.4. This is because we get immortality on everyone. This will prevent Corrin from getting hit with ultimate reduction. Because again, we need Corrin going like every 14.5 seconds. So if Corrin is getting his ultimate reduced, not going to work. We just leave Corrin on default. We just let him just go as fast as he can go. Eli goes right before the boss ults, puts up that defense penalty. Lothair's the first to go after the fragile hits, and then Lorarii goes, and then Oggok buffs right before the alt reduction. And we have everyone spread out. They don't need to stand close to each other, so take less damage from the seeds. And I do have accuracy on Oggok to try to land some attack penalties. Helps reduce the damage a little bit. Alright, so we missed defense penalty there at the beginning. I'm just going to restart it. Easy thing to restart on that one. Start off on a good foot. Alright, so we are just now hitting 40 stacks. Took a minute, 15 seconds to get to 40 stacks. And then Corrin will keep that for the whole fight. Now see Lothair will do like 7 million damage per ultimate. It's crazy. Even way more than 7 million. Yeah, just a ton of damage. Actually, never mind. That was like 5 million because we didn't have defense penalty. Well, if we had defense penalty, it'd be like 7 million. But Eli will not let us down. There we go. Now we'll see lots of damage. That was about 7 million, right? Oh, Lorarii struggling. Got a big crit heal on him. The nice thing with this fight is like the only thing that really deals much damage is those rust poisons. Because the boss doesn't like do more damage as the fight goes on. No, Lorarii died. So it's like as long as you can kind of protect from the rust poison, generally people are fine. Alright, we did it. 200. Nice. Got 143 from Lothair that time. Even Lorarii did more, 32. We'll do our Burn Aura team. So here we have Garius on a 15-second rotation. So kind of the same build, however, we do need him with resistance. He happens to have accuracy, it doesn't matter, it's just because of the gear. But we have him with resistance. He only has 3,000 defense, but he can still full heal everyone. So basically, it's just a full heal every 15 seconds. He needs resistance so that he doesn't get his ult pushed back because he's not going to have a buff, unless this just happens to be up. But you would still need resistance because the spell and buff prohibition. And we have Beags. He's doing our Witch's Remains and applying burns for Aschetius. And we just gave him decent amount of like damage gear, but nothing crazy. He doesn't do much damage. Then we got Aschetius. We have him with the Captain Sook for some crit rate, little extra damage when he is not full health. I tried Emperor's Might. I do better with the aerial for him. And we got Diantha. She actually does okay damage, so it does help to have her built for damage. 100% crit rate, basically. Good crit damage, good attack. Robotrix Roots works the best for her, for me. I only have her booked to have this chance percent. So every ult, she's doing the 100%. And then Amon, I do have the Envoy's Wings. And then she's guaranteed to crit, right? Every hit is a crit. So I have her stacked with a ton of crit damage, good attack. And then for timings, we have Garius starting at 23.8. I don't think there's really a specific reason for it. I wanted to mainly just avoid. I don't want Garius to heal right before Aschetius ults. I want Aschetius to be damaged. So Garius is healing before the seed skill goes off to make sure Aschetius is always damaged for his ult, for his artifact. And he's on a 15-second interval. We have Beags applying defense penalty before the 30-second mark. Then Diantha's the first to go, so she can put that full bloom up. Then Aemon goes because she does more damage. Then Aschetius, and then Aschetius goes. And that's it. Then we're just using the attack aura. There's really nothing else to use. This team doesn't quite do 200 million, but they're pretty close. I do think if I ran maybe a full Aura team with like Kareth and Theohine, they might be able to do 200 just because I would be buffing from Kareth. But I kind of ran out of resources, so we're running Aschetius and Beags. Alright, last 30 seconds. Sneak in one last alt barrage.
Retribution of the forest. Sparkle shine.
And just shy of 180. So we got Aemon doing 79, Aschetius 65, Diantha 27, which is pretty solid for enabler. And then Beast was such a pain to get to work right. So when you use Lorentheel, would that make it to 200? Yeah. So yeah, so for a rally, Lorentheel gives people 25% of their alt back. Now, rally is a buff, so the boss, it can be dispelled and it can be blocked. So this is a major pain in the butt to work around. Now, when you deploy Lorentheel and you run a full rally team, everyone can alt, assuming they're booked, every 15 seconds, which means that you can do a 2-for-1 rotation on this boss. You can alt every 15 seconds. But if Lorentheel gets his ult too quick, says when Lorentheel reaches full alt energy, he gives himself rally, and he needs rally to then get this alt recharge, right? So if Lorentheel casts his alt and he does not have rally, everything gets messed up. So he absolutely needs to have rally every single time. And if you're gonna dance around the dispel and the buff prohibition, he needs to have 0 skill haste. And you can't use Tathlin. So originally I had Tathlin in here, but Tathlin boosts alt energy. So every battle skill, a rally ally gets 10% alt energy. If this hits Lorentheel, everything gets messed up. So that is why Tathlin got the boot, and we brought in Felicity. Now Felicity, she needs to be every 15 seconds, right? Because everyone else is every 15. So we have Felicity with Witch's Remains. We had to give her near 100% crit rate and really good attack speed. This is because every time she does damage with a crit, she gains 5% alt energy. So she can go every 15 seconds when built this way. We gave her a attack speed set and a crit rate set. And she has to have accuracy to actually land Witch's Remains. Now we have Ardrith solo supporting. She does not need to be 15 seconds. She's default 16, so she's already pretty fast. I have a little bit of skill haste, so she's at 15.1. That's not necessary. I just have her basically running whenever she wants. We have her in the Solar King's Horn for extra damage, and then the healing chest. I like to give her a little bit of attack speed, so I try to find runes that have some attack speed on them. That helps her get more hits in during her ultimate to get more heals off. And then for damage, we have Huberg. I got better performance with the aerial set. We have him with the hook. So he's got near 100% crit rate, or he's over 100% crit rate, 5300 attack, 253 damage. And then we got Hegio. I have him with the flute because I wanted the crit rate. I was struggling to get him to 100% crit rate. With the flute, he's at 100% crit rate basically. Good crit damage, decent attack. Lorentheel, you definitely want to try to build him for some damage. So I do have mine with the pipe organ, which buffs Huberg and Felicity. He's got good attack, okay crit. So he does okay damage. He'll do like, I don't know, 10 million or something like that. Not bad. And then for timings, so everyone is a 15-second interval. Ardrith is a little slower, so she'll drift a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. Basically, I just have Ardrith at her default. Then, so we have Lorentheel goes. Now, the funny thing is Lorentheel actually gives Rally to Felicity, which is extremely important because that prevents Felicity from getting hit with the ultimate reduction because he has a buff. So it's a weird kind of quirk with this fight that just happens to work in our favor. Yeah, so Lorentheel and Felicity ult at the same time. And then 10th of a second later, Huberg goes, and then Hegio. Yeah, this was a pain in the butt to figure out. And then we're just running the 30% crit damage. Many, many hours went into this team.
May the moonlight cleanse your soul. May the moonlight cleanse your soul.
So Felicity has the rally buff, so she doesn't get the ult reduction, and it lets her stay at 15-second interval. If she didn't get the rally buff from Lorentheel, she would need resistance or someone else to buff her. On this team, I actually do not need to do the last 30-second thing because they already are going 15 seconds, so it's not really. I think like maybe like 1 or 2 heroes can ult one more time or something, but they do get their kind of final rotation in.
May the moonlight cleanse your soul. May the moonlight cleanse your soul. May the moonlight cleanse your soul. May the moonlight cleanse your soul.
All right, there it is, 173. Huberg doing 85, Hegio 43, Felicity 25, Lorentheel 14. So close to 2 billion, but not quite. 1.195. So we'll go through our teams here. So we have our Dauntless team. They're doing 205. We got Nastjenka, Tharivol, Schaltar, Nathaniel, Nimbus. We got Wildfire doing 204. Synarrel, Flora, Errich, Tonalnan, and Thea. We got Corrosion doing 233. Frurbath, Dargo, Sacradeia, Rook, Whisk. And we got Poison doing 200. We got Lothair, Corrin, Oggok, Eli, and Lorarii. We have our Burned Aura hybrid team doing 180. Aschetius, Beags, Garius, Diantha, and Aemonleyda. And then our last team, Rally, doing 173. We got Huberg, Lorentheel, Hegio, Felicity, and Ardrith. There we go. Those are our teams. Just shy of 1.2 billion.